Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, but we started TogetherForSharon.com in her memory. Today I have an incredible guest, somebody who means a lot to me. I hope he knows that. I consider him, not just family, but somebody who inspires me daily. And actually, I know a lot of his incredible friends and people who are out there, not just in the US, but I like to reach the world. So from Africa to America to Uganda, all the way in a circle, we're a family, in my opinion, in this fight for a cure for Parkinson's disease. So welcome, Gavin. And again, I feel like I know you for years, but this is the first time we got the opportunity to talk. And again, I'm so grateful for your time.
Yeah, thank you, George. It is a very much a pleasure to meet you, to talk to you. It's amazing what you're doing. You probably are the connector for more people around our community than anyone else. And we are a family. We're like brothers and sisters. I picture us that way around the world. If you have Parkinson's, you're kind of related to me. We have that right off the bat. You're a caregiver for your mother. Your mother is very special to you. And I also lost one very special to me, my wife Amy, but I lost her to cancer a little over a year ago. It was August 28th last year. And, I had the misfortune, but also the pleasure of being her caregiver for her last, 6 months or so. She had a very aggressive brain tumor. And it was a very special time. I've had Parkinson's 16 years, but I've been fortunate, and she didn't have to give a lot of care to me, but she certainly did help me a lot in various ways, and she continued to do so. And I got the opportunity to give back to her and be her caregiver to some degree. It's pretty mutual for most of that time. It was a sweet time, and she understood me, and I understood her. But that's tough because we had two teenagers left behind, and it's been hard since, and they miss her terribly because I'm no substitute for Amy, and but we're managing. Things seem to be getting better. And like I said, I've had Parkinson's 16 years. I had DBS um, about 8 years ago. Next week, I go in to get my generator replaced. It's been pretty good for me. And I used to be in commercial real estate, and I had to quit that job because it was a desk job, and the lack of movement was just brutal on my body. And came home at night. I was just a grumpy bear to everyone. So I quit that and needed to do something. I got into personal training, people with Parkinson's, because exercise has done so much for me. It's been incredible, and been a been a lifeblood for me. And I wanted to see if I could give that to other people and help them do something that's a very hard thing for most people to do. I'm fortunate, and I've been healthy enough to do it, and I enjoy it, and it's been so good to me, and it's opened up a lot of doors. And so that was my first kind of opportunity to share with Parkinson's. And that's what I want to continue to do, is to serve any way I can, like you, George.
I appreciate you sharing with that today. I hope it's okay. We're going to dedicate the show to Amy, and we send our love and support to you and the whole family. I'll make sure, as you probably know, that she'll never be forgotten. We're 2 years. Well, let's go backwards a little. My mother unfortunately passed almost 5 years. I always keep saying four because it just feels like it's reoccurring every day. We miss her so much. But so after she passed 2 years, I knew that there were about 1 million people in the U.S., but I didn't even think of the rest of the world. So when I found the World Parkinson Congress, I was shocked to find out there's 10 million people around the world with Parkinson's, and I think it's growing. And that's when I went on a mission and realized it's not just about my mother and me anymore; it's about everybody. And that's where I kind of discovered so many even more incredible, inspiring people like yourself, and so many out there battling around the world. And even Mr. Hannington, I had the honor to meet with him. But your perspective, again, I send our love to the kids too, because I know it's tough. But I'll keep talking about her if it's okay, and we'll keep talking about her. And she's really still with us, with maybe her and my mother actually joking around just now and saying, we want these two to rest and not keep fighting like this, but we're going to keep doing it, Mom and Amy, sorry. But so one thing you bring, which is the first time in 80 shows, I don't even know how I got to 80 shows, but that you actually were a caregiver while going through your own battle, which is really, uh, it's not even inspirational, it's just heroic and incredible. So thank you for all you do and also for sharing that. Because I think that, and I'll say it every show, everyone might get tired, but if we just reach one person out there might be in a similar situation, then we've changed the world. And finally, on TogetherForSharon.com, we have, if everyone clicks interviews, you'll see completely free. I don't want anything but everyone to know you're never alone. But I started also covering other diseases such as cancer, autism, not diseases, but things, disabilities and other areas, ALS and Alzheimer's. Why? Because I want to cure for every disease. So I'm going to be selfish in that manner. But anyway, so Amy, again, we're thinking of you always. If you could kind of touch now on the world, which is shifts to Africa, Uganda. How did you even, hear about that? Obviously, Mr. Hannington. I love him. He was on our show. It was tough because he's in Africa, so the connection, we got all his words, but it was kind of freezing. But I was so honored to even for a few minutes to speak to him. I love him too. So maybe you could tell us, how did you get into the world of helping Parkinson's awareness, where there is people and groups that are so needy for attention?
Yeah, there's so much there I want to discuss that you brought up. One is that Hannington's in such a similar situation as you. He's lost his mother in a terribly tragic way and changed the course of his life. He decided he wanted to change the world of Parkinson's in his home country of Uganda, and he'd love to do it for all of Africa. And he's just so driven and motivated by that. Yeah, I've never met anyone like him. And you guys are two common people on different sides of the world doing the same thing for the same reason. Um, I found on Facebook this Cheryl Klingenhofer, um, who operates a charity out of Uganda that Hannington and her began together. It's called Parkinson's Sibuko, which means Parkinson's is not witchcraft, because that's a common myth across much of Africa. I saw on Facebook they were having a fun run there for attention and awareness. And I was real intrigued by that because up until that time, I hadn't thought too much about other places in the world and what they dealt with Parkinson's. But that really opened my eyes and sounded really neat. And this Hannington and Cheryl sounded like super interesting people, which they are beyond what I could have ever imagined. And I decided I wanted to go. And this was in 2019, I think.
Mm.
And my wife came home from work, and I told her, and there was about two times I can remember my wife being visibly upset with me. Said, "You're going. You didn't even ask me if you." I kind of get that way. I get excited and jump on things.
Yeah.
And she got over it, and it was a life changing experience to be there for a week and spend time with Hannington and see those people and see how he touches people's lives. And like you talked about, it's not just Parkinson's; it's just so many related things. And anyone with a disability, I consider kind of in my family. And that's what Hannington does. When you're driving around your country looking for people with Parkinson's, like he does, a lot of other people with needs turn up everywhere, and he doesn't exclude any of them. He pulls them all in. He wants to help as all that he can, and no matter the ailment, it's kind of suffering is the same no matter what you have. Um, so since that time, since I came home, since 2019, I've been working for that cause, both within the organization and outside. It's just I think about it all the time. I think about it nonstop. I mean, of course, our Parkinson's is bad around the more affluent countries, but it's nothing compared to what it is in Uganda or countries like that. It can be absolutely miserable, and just a whole different kind of disease, and not to mention, with the lack of resources they already have. So it's just something that's always been on my heart, and I can't stop thinking every day. I think about that, and I think about what Hannington's doing, how incredible he is. He's been such a great role model for myself and someone that shows we're capable of doing so much more than we think we can. Because what he but what he did with a full time job and was doing full time work somehow with the charity and best work you can imagine. His whole heart, mind, and soul and body are thrown into anything he does. He's just great example of human being. I love the guy to death, and always cheerful, and optimistic, and you just can't get him down. And I wish the world were more filled with more of them. But I try to tell people about him and his cause, and try to get him promoted to be throughout Africa and around the world. I mean, he'd be solid for any country in the world. And like I tell him, and when I was there in Uganda, I said, Hanson, if you were born in the United States, you'd be rich. He'd just laugh and go, "Yeah, I know." He's just that brilliant and that sharp and that charismatic. He works out hard. There's no stopping him. Um, so I could go on all day about him, but yeah. So the cause for Africa and other countries, South America, India's got trouble. The Asian country, China, we don't really know. So you assume they're managing. Can't really do much there. But there's a lot of people around the world need a lot of help, no matter whether it's Parkinson's or whatever neurological ailment or cancer, whatever it is. My having Parkinson's really opened my eyes up to suffering, not only in my own country, in my own family, but just the suffering that must occur around the world for these things. And I feel fortunate to have all the resources I've had to fight Parkinson's, and that my wife had to fight cancer, and that we have every day. And that's really transformed the way I look at life for sure.
Thank you. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to share now some of your incredible work, but I do want to say how important it is that we use our voices, but also on behalf of others. And I notice there are a lot of people who might not want to be, public. Like one thing I always bring up, Michael J. Fox is my hero, and for so many more, because he could have had a private life and been quiet, but he decided to stand up and fight. And we have to use our platforms like we're doing right now to really bring awareness for others too, not just ourselves. And it's very important, I think, like you mentioned, to continue your work. And again, it's just simply incredible that even a half hour can't, kind of fully encompass, but we can keep sharing this. I always say every one of these shows is really very powerful, not about me, or it's mostly about the guests, but we cannot stop sharing it, because until we find a cure, it has to be shared. And I'm trying to reach people who aren't aware and aren't in the Parkinson's community, because in my weird brain, I feel like, I love this community and they're my family. But if we reach those who aren't in the community, bring everyone together, we're going to be so much closer to a cure. So thank you again. Maybe you can touch now on some of the amazing work too, I think you do online, because everyone also, the thing I love about the show is when I know Gavin a while, but I don't use YouTube a lot, and I just subscribe to your channel. So please go to YouTube, type in Gavin, Mogan 9467, and you'll be able to subscribe. And also his X, now it's formerly Twitter, they change the name every week. But maybe you could talk about the impact of social media. And I love your work and your posts, and I share them. You might not know a lot, but I think the more we keep sharing, it doesn't cost anything, everyone. You can share, you could subscribe to his, follow him, like, and that's the thing. It's like you can actually make a huge difference by just spending like a minute or even a second every few weeks.
Right. You still there?
Yeah, I'm just watching you play basketball. It's my favorite sports.
I basketball. We'll have to talk about that sometime.
Please.
I
Maybe.
played this morning.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was not even on any social media for the most part until I went to Uganda. And then I felt like that was the way for me to share when I came back. Prior to that, I was dabbling in things, trying to start community projects locally. But when I came back from Uganda, I wanted to reach out broadly to more people around the world and tell them about what was going on and try to get them interested in Uganda. So from that day forward, I started, being much more active on Facebook, and eventually got into Twitter and had to post to YouTube. And I've had a blog for a while. So still on with those things. I create these videos, sort of fallen into creating these videos I'd love to do of me, um, when my medication wears off, being able to, you know, transform my body almost like a placebo or a belief effect into a sort of a medicated state for at least a few minutes. And it's certainly a fun thing to do, and I think it's very interesting. I think it has ramifications in other areas of Parkinson's and helps me get out of situations as needed too. And I think, there's no telling what something like that could lead to, because I kind of keep going deeper and pushing it and going further and doing more. And who knows where something like that will lead. But I've been doing it for several years. I sort of fell ass backwards into it. I was training at this gym I love called Adaptive Training Foundation. It's run by a former NFL player. He started a gym strictly just for people with disabilities. It started mostly wounded warriors and expanded to people of all types. And I was the first person with Parkinson's and so forth. Now it's very big and very well known and treats people and transforms people. Anyway, one day I was going into the gym and I was kind of off and kind of limping, not moving too well. And the founder comes out, who's very, very charismatic and just very attentive, knowledgeable, and just a ray of light all the time. And he saw me and he gives me a big hug as he's going. He's coming out and I was coming in, and he let me go, and I was free of Parkinson's. Lo and behold, never heard of anything like that. And for a couple minutes, I was as if I didn't have the disease, and it just slowly started to come back in. But since that day, that was in 2019. Since that time, for 5 years, I've kind of played with this phenomenon, you might say, and I always looked at ways of how can I get this myself? How can I do more of it? And how can I get it longer? And what can I do with it? And what is Parkinson's? And how is it treated? And like the effect of people on it, and the effect of touch, and what we think about and what we feel and emotions. And there's so many things that affect our Parkinson's. It's really really been eye opening. How many things go into effect, and the mind body connection and heart and soul connection is just huge. And I'm never not fascinated by what each day brings, and how I can how it affects me and how I can also affect it.
I really love your YouTube because you bring us right into your literal, living room and share so much which others might not. But I feel strongly that even if there's one person watching now, and again, please share this for that reason, but that felt alone like my mother did. She never even, I think, I was shocked when I thought about this the other day on a show. It was like just hit me like a light bulb, blew up. But she never saw another person, I believe, with Parkinson's and never spoke to someone, and that's really sad. If I had you and all the people now that I love and literally fight, and I don't sleep many nights thinking about how to find a cure. If I had you on like FaceTime or even like something like Zoom with my mother, I think she would have not just smiled, but she would have had more in her life to have a little bit more hope. So I think what you're doing is incredible, but I think you're not only inspiring people, but you're also giving hope. So just want to again, thank you for that and your friendship. That's the most important.
Thanks, George. That's what I want to do more than anything, because that's what treats myself. If I can give hope and inspiration and someone to believe that they can get through this, what most people see is a future of misery and fear and discomfort and dread and worry. Yeah, there's some of that, but there's a lot of good stuff ahead too. And I really, really aim to spread that message with people. Like it's not all doom and gloom, and you can get used to things, and we can cope, and things get hard, but hard just becomes a normal way of life. And you can keep improving. Your Parkinson's going to take you down slowly but surely, but we can keep improving ourselves, Parkinson's aside, and become just my goal is to become as best person as possible. Parkinson's will get me eventually, but it's going to get the best person I can possibly be in the meantime.
That actually leads to the next section of the show, which is a little bit more about you. And you kind of just already hit the nail on the topic, but maybe you could list 3 words that describe who you are.
Um, Curious, compassionate, and trying to think of another C word because I like alliteration.
Mhm.
Uh, Compassionate and calm.
Thank you. I love that. What is I mean, I think you might have mentioned it, but what is one moment or most memorable moment that stands out the most through all of your work so far with awareness?
I
What mm,
um Being accepted into that gym I was telling you about, the Adaptive Training Foundation, and making a difference there and getting to if they call it a moment, it would be the moment I found out about the place and I went to request could I train there, because it really offers such a different mentality than anything I was used to. Mentality of hope and light and can do. And I remember getting in touch with David Babor and asking him, "Hey, is it possible that I could train there with you guys, mostly wounded warriors at that time?" And he said, "Well, he knew I had Parkinson's." And he goes, "Well, I'll tell you what, you got lucky because my wife was touched by Parkinson's with her grandfather, and her grandfather had a huge impact on her life." And she said she told her husband, her name is Sarah Babora, she told David, she said, "I don't care if this guy has all his arms and all his legs, because most of the people there, um, you know, have lost a limb somehow, some way." She said, "I don't care if he has all his arms and legs. You're going to train this guy, and you're going to do it as long as he needs it." And he said, "Okay, yes, yes, ma'am, I will." Because I was lucky that she had this connection to Parkinson's, and they took me to the gym, and I've been so tightly connected to that place and those people ever since. And really makes you believe, you can do anything, and you see the things that people in there are doing who generally have a tougher time than me in life, and nothing stops them. And so that's sort of a very contagious mindset. And I've been so blessed to have had that as part of my life, and along with many other people that have kept me afloat and moving forward, and kept my spirits up, and won't let me quit.
Thank you. And I was a caregiver, as you know, and you were a caregiver. We always seem to be still caring for others, children, family. If you, can you give any tips to those listening who might be caregivers, and maybe you could touch on the walking stick you're holding because it looks like they're about to go to the professional baseball league.
Yeah, I like to be just helps have something to hold on to. This is special to me. I just recently broke has a handle. It's a
I
cane.
know that's what I saw in your video that had a cane. It had a handle.
So special to me. Amy found it for me online, and she bought it for me. This is actually the second one I've been through, and this one in particular, I was going to Denver and took it through security at the airport, and the TSA took it from me, said it was a weapon.
Yeah,
Amy heard about it, and I went on the flew on to Denver. When I came back home, Amy was very upset about it. Went to TSA and got it back. She said, "Those things are expensive. I don't want to have to buy you another one." So she got it back. Got it autographed by a couple of my favorite baseball players, the Fletcher brothers, David Fletcher and his brother Dominic Fletcher. So it's very special to me, and helps me do things, gives me a special feeling. And with Parkinson's, those emotions and feelings and confidence and beliefs about yourself are real important. So when I carry this thing around, and especially now with Amy passed on, and the connection that continues and will always have between us, kind of comes through this cane. And so it's a nice thing to have. It's like my little whoopee, my comfort blanket or what have you. And a lot of things, I give things like that big meaning. And I can really, because when you feel things with Parkinson's, you can do more. You feel things in life. And I'm sorry, I forgot what the first part of the question was. Oh, caregivers. Yeah, that's a great question.
before I even get there, I feel like we should call out, no offense, but the federal government and the TSA, and they need more awareness. I might have to write another book. I'm writing enough book. I'm tired of writing, but that's the problem. And that's another question. After the caregiver one, I'd like to discuss, how do you think we can bring more awareness? But first, back to the caregiving.
Yeah, and I think in TSA's defense, I looked very well
Uh,
when I wasn't having to use it, but I wanted to have it with me. Yeah, there is use for it.
yeah,
So then when they looked at me, they thought, well, he's not even using it, and so by the letter of the law, they're just doing their job.
yeah,
The caregiver, I felt like at that time I had 14 years of Parkinson's. I felt like that was my preparation for the 1 year I'd give to Amy's, and then not a full year did she need it, but she needed a lot of help, especially in the last several months. I felt like it was all geared for that. So how I could best serve her, and so all the experience I had really helped me as a caregiver because otherwise there's so much I wouldn't have understood. But I think getting as much understand the person as much as possible. I guess that's obvious. Patience, and you really have to see things through their eyes, which is a hard thing to do if you haven't been through it yourself. But the more you can understand. It's, I guess, obvious stuff. I'm trying to think of something that's not as obvious about caregiving. Um, you know, if you can find a way to enjoy it, that's going to help a lot.
mm,
I really was It was I considered it a privilege to be able to do that. It was hard, extremely hard at times, but it was also a privilege to be able to care for your loved one at that time. And she'd done so much for me my whole life. It was just kind of a partial repayment, and um, we had some very special times because forced her to slow down, and after being she did trying to caring for the family like she had before, and worrying and stress and all these other things. All of a sudden, it kind of went away because there's nothing she could do about a lot of things, and she couldn't work anymore, and now she just wanted to spend as much time with her family and much quality time as possible. And that was a pleasure to see her. Um, she was more like the person that she, I think, was meant to be, and less things of the world just don't matter much anymore when it comes down to your mortality. And so it was definitely a privilege to get to know her even more in that last year. It's a very aggressive tumor, so we had a sense of her outcome, but we were going to fight. Amy was a fighter, very very sweet, just a huge impact on our community. But a lot of people didn't realize how tough a persona, how tough a mentality, and how much fortitude she had to fight. And I saw that, and I loved that side of her. And we fought, we fought it as best we could. And I was so proud of her for never giving up. And that's a lesson we want to leave our kids with: is never quit. And you never know what can happen. Have hope, and you know, do everything you can do. And Amy was all about attitude and effort. Like, every day she brought attitude and effort. And we can all do that. There's no excuse why we can't bring attitude and effort to anything we do. And Amy will always be remembered for that, for her personality, for her spirit, and we miss it a lot around here, unfortunately.
thank you for sharing that. Very important to keep talking about. I find with my mother, a lot of the work I do is I'm still grieving too, but this helps tremendously. You're helping me more than you even realize, and likely many listening to this too. This one is one of my favorite. If you were asked to write a script to a movie about your life story, what would you call it? I think I stumped.
Great, great, or peculiar,
I like them. The horror story. I don't think so.
paradoxical, because I
Yeah,
love how nothing seems to be what it is on its surface. You flip it over, it's closer to reality than the way we commonly look at things. So paradoxical or peculiar would probably be good p words.
I love that. And is there any other areas or topics you wanted to touch on, or how can everyone reach you? Please again go to x.com, if that's what it is anymore, and follow Gavin also on YouTube. I just did it. It literally took 1 second, so there's really no excuse, everyone out there. And he has some incredible, things he shares. Also, the journey with Africa, and we also will be able to see some beautiful footage, I bet. And I just did of Amy, so she still lives on in my eyes and everyone else too. So please support him, but I'm not sure if there's any other areas you kind of want to touch on, or otherwise I have one final question.
Just one more thing. Coming up a little less than 3 weeks, I'm going to Philadelphia, and they're having the Movement Disorder Specialists World International Congress is in Philadelphia at the end of this month and into the 1st of October. And I'm going just as a reminder to the folks there that there's a lot of people suffering with Parkinson's that they never see in places like Africa that have no treatment and have this terrible stigma about what their disease is. And I'm sure they know it, but like they, yeah, I think it would help if they could sort of lay eyes on at least somebody that's a stand, not the people there, but at least a stand-in, which would be myself, as someone who'll be off their medication and struggling and not in a good state at all. And I want them to see me every day, coming and going, because I'll be outside somewhere. I'm not sure how I'll set up, but I want to be seen so that it leaves an impression with some people that I think could really do something about the suffering that goes on. It's a problem that's gone on for too long, and it wouldn't cost too much money, relatively speaking, wouldn't cost too much to take care of a lot of suffering. And they're in a position, they're doing a lot of good for everyone else around the world, but they're in a position where they can take that step and once and for all to get some the program started to so people wouldn't have to suffer so much. You know, at least a good number of people could tap into it and improve their lives so much more than the misery they go through right now. And so that's what I want to do in Philadelphia. And I'm going to do as much stuff like that as I can going forward. Because I'm sort of used to being off medication. It sucks, but for people, I come out of it. And there's people that have to live that way, and I always remind myself, like, how do people live like this? Unfortunately, they have to, and they just shouldn't have to be that way. There's just things we can do about it, but we just need to be aware of it and take action and commit to it instead of just talking about it and thinking about it and pushing it off to the side. Hopefully, my being there will push the ball a little bit more forward on that.
Well, we always fully support you, and if you need me to share any of that, even live, let me know. I mean, I've started a new show called Q&A with Sharon, George, son George, virtual, like on the road. So I pretty much basically, I can't drive there, but we could always jump on with you for 10 minutes and you can show us what's going on and what your message is. And then I could share that with the world. So there's always opportunities. I think these are great conversations because we're all kind of, a little relaxed, whatever relax is. But imagine, going live there while you're yelling or whatever, chanting and things. I think that would be fun. And also for awareness, it's a very important thing that you're doing, and you're saving other individuals' lives and bring attention to something where many just unfortunately can't get there physically. And I know when you go on these shows, they even had an event today. It was virtual. It's not the same. It is great, but so if you did want, we can always talk about that. I'd love to continue this journey together. And any way you can do and bring attention, you have me fighting right by your side. So I do have one last message for you and everyone listening. We love you, we support you, we care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with Gavin, will advocate for you, and together our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I end the show with I'm just getting started, because before we met, I've discovered you and with social media. So there are only, there's some positives like that to social media that outweigh the negative. But when I met you or saw you and we spoke, everything you did kind of it's like some kind of movie where, the superhero is like drained, like Superman, and all of a sudden the kryptonite's gone and now he's recharged. So when I see you and do what you're doing, it kind of recharges me to realize that I have to keep fighting with you. And again, it's such an honor to not just call you friend, but have you on the show today. I think your message is so powerful, and I feel together today we will definitely reach the world. So thank you again for your time. And again, always remember we're going to be fighting right by your side until there's a cure at everyone's doorstep.
And that enthusiasm has me wanting to run through this brick wall behind.
We'll tape it, but I don't recommend it. I don't want you I can't. That's the one thing. I'm actually in law enforcement. I'm a police officer, reserve now, and lawyer, but I can't run over through the screen to save you. So don't wait till I'm with.
Many things, George, but so good to have you in the community. You are definitely making a difference, my friend.
I appreciate it. And again, we send our love, support to you, the whole family, everyone behind the scenes there that help you and care for you. And of course, today, everyone is going to be in memory of Amy. I'm going to put that in the notes, but we'll never forget. And, this doesn't end today, everyone. You have to share this. Me and Gavin will continue this fight for you, with you, and hopefully you'll be able to join us too. So thank you, everyone. This has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon St. George, and Gavin saying goodbye one more time with Mr. Elephant.
And the elephants, so we got a lot of these around here.
I love it. They might need to switch the World Park to Congress one year from the Parky raccoon to the elephant just for her. At least I'll do it. So,
Be great. You'd be, she'd be proud of that.
mhm.
All
Well,
right,
I appreciate everything. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Please stay tuned. We have so much more to come. Incredible guest stories, and really, every day is a lesson for me, and I'm learning each minute as it goes. But I do know at the end of the day, we have to jump up with Gavin by his side, and all those of you out there fighting this disease until there's a cure. I won't stop. So this is George signing off with Gavin. Thanks for again for everyone, and send our love and support. And stay tuned. Thanks, everyone.